Welcome to the RJLT Economics. Today I want to talk about childbirth, workers' rights, and the environment. I want to make a very simple point, and I think this point may be construed by many as somewhat radical. And people from the left and from the right will have different types of disagreements with me on this, but they will disagree nonetheless. This is the second time I make this recording. I did it yesterday, last evening, but I haven't published that one. And I think in retrospect, I forgot to make several points. And at the same time, I started rambling towards the end. So I'm recording this again and try to make it somewhat succinct. The point that I want to make is that it is important for the working class to lower their fertility rate, to have fewer children, and this will, one, help improve the workers' rights, and two, help with the environment, protecting the environment. Let me explain. So my point. My point of departure is that I think it is always the ruling class, the rulers, that want to have more people for three things: for labor, for soldiers, for them to fight, and for basically a distraction. Because as more people compete for limited resources and limited opportunities, they will have little time or little attention to spare to think about higher meanings of life, to think about the inequalities in the social structure. So that's basically life itself becomes a distraction. For the longest period of time, I think the interests of the rulers and the interests of the workers coincided, and that is because when most people worked on their land, they were farmers. The unit productivity of the land has a ceiling, right? And before the ceiling is reached, every actual worker, or every farmer or every actual child is will help improve the productivity of the land. So for the farmer, having more children means that they will be able to, more hands who can work on the land, on the same land, and they will produce more, and they will make more. They will have better lives. But this, of course, has a limit. But as in the past, healthcare was almost non-existent, and as living standards were quite low and lifespans were quite short, in very few cases were this ceiling reached. But now it's completely different. Very few people work on farms, and even when they do work on farms, there are a lot of modern equipment and AI-powered farming equipment that largely displace basically the need of manual labor. And most people work either in factories or in offices as employees. So in this case, when you have when you raise a child, when you have a child, you raise him or her. You pay for all the healthcare, education, all the opportunities, and it is not you, the family, that reaps the benefits. It is the capitalist, the employer, the ruling class that actually seizes the returns of your fruit of labor, let's say. So in that case, it does no longer makes economic sense for workers, for the working class to have children. Now, of course, in today's society, the culture, in today's culture, and indeed in the long historic culture of almost all nations, people are accustomed to raising children. They believe that this is a part of their, part of what makes life whole. Well, this maybe not, because culture is a social construct, and the social construct has economic foundations. Essentially, it is, I think, from economic needs that arise from economic needs of having more children to work on land, that people form the culture that people should have more children. But in today's world, having more children means that more people will enter the workforce, and as more children, more people are better trained. In fact, now the younger people are better educated, better trained than ever before, but they don't have the opportunity because there's an oversupply of talent. There's an oversupply of educated workers, but there's just not enough demand. There's just not enough resources in this world to support that. I think it is really let me make another point. As AI enters the workforce, a lot of the tasks are going to be displaced by are going to be carried out by a lot of tasks are going to be carried out by AI, and a lot of jobs are going to be displaced by AI. And I'm thinking in accounting, in a lot of the jobs in finance, manufacturing, absolutely, farming, medical care, healthcare, transportation. AI is fully capable, or will be very soon, fully capable to replace, I would say, the majority of jobs. However well you are trained, perhaps the only fields where there's going to be some competition or some discussion whether AI can fully displace is in design and the creativity, creative tasks. But even there, I'm not sure. But the point is, a lot of the jobs will and can be and probably will be displaced by AIs. That means there will be fewer workers in need. And it is very important for the workers to lower their fertility rate, to have fewer people enter the workforce, so that they will have a stronger voice when in any labor discussions, right? I think in a couple of episodes ago, perhaps 107, I mentioned that AI needs to, AI can displace a lot of these jobs, and it is important for workers, for the working class to fight for a system that no longer pays based on the work that people have done, that people do, right? But turn to a more equity-based system. I know that a lot of right-leaning people will be very annoyed by this word equity, but the fact will be that most people won't be able to find a job, and most people won't be needed as workers, but they still need to have some way to sustain themselves, and they still need to be supplied ways to make their lives meaningful. And this means that there needs to be a new system that is completely different from the current capitalist system. Because if we continue with the current capitalist system, with AI, there's going to be a lot of people are going to starve, and there will be crimes all over the place. It's not going to be a pretty sight. And it is very, very important, in my judgment, for the workers to fight for this better system. But in order for the workers to fight for this system, they need to make sure that they have the power. If a lot of people are, if more people are looking for a job than there are jobs in supply, then they will have very little power to fight for themselves, to fight for their rights. That's one point. Another point is the environment. You see, given the same amount of economic output, I still think that people can have much better lives if they have a beautiful environment. If one has to live in a crowded city with a lot of pollution and very few to no biodiversity, they won't be as happy as someone who has access to forests, to parks, to wild animals, to birds, etc., and to the clear blue sky, clean water. Those things have their value as well. And unfortunately, however we try to reduce the unit emission or unit per capita emission or per capita pollution, all that must be multiplied by the number of people. And one has to acknowledge, this is one point I will disagree with anyone. I mean, I do not accept anyone who says otherwise, which is that this world is overpopulated. Earth is overpopulated by humans. Now, a lot of people will say at this point that, yes, but we have technology and the Earth can support more people. Yes, the Earth can support more people, but then there will be less space for trees, for flowers, for wild animals. And if we want to keep the Earth as a beautiful place, a place that that still has a little bit of wilderness, that still has places where people can visit and explore. But we cannot make every place a big city, however efficient and clean it is. And this means that we need to leave some space for lives that are not human. And so the Earth is essentially overpopulated. We need to reduce the number of people. Now, I'm not suggesting to give people some medical treatment. I'm not saying that we mandate certain things, but I'm saying that people should become aware of this situation and voluntarily choose to lead a different way of life, one that prioritizes more spiritual enjoyments than the enjoyments that you can have by having and raising children. Trust me, not everyone find that enjoyable. Even though people who don't have children may think that this is part of growing up. Maybe it is, but sometimes it is good to prolong your youth and not grow up and grow old too quickly or too soon. All right, these are the points that I want to make. Thank you very much for listening. I can understand if you disagree with me on this, But this is my point, and I think certainly everyone should have the opportunity and right to express their opinions, especially when these opinions are not offensive. This is obviously another point that is not always true everywhere. And I know that perhaps most people in this world, and including most people, and including the average people living in the country that I am in, don't have these rights. But, people, there are several things that people always look forward to. It's not necessarily democracy. I think democracy is an idea that is created by as a social construct, right? But freedom, everyone looks for freedom, and this it's so deeply rooted. Freedom is so deeply rooted in our genes that you look at an animal, any animal, you try to catch a wild animal. What does it do? It tries to leave. It tries to flight, right? And that is because it does not want to get caught. Even when, I don't know if you have raised chicken, they even if you feed them, if you try to catch them, they want to flee. Why? Because they want to be free. They don't want to be kept. And this is so fundamental to the nature of being alive. I think freedom is number one, the most important thing. And trading freedom for a moment of pleasure or a little bit of money is highly foolish, because all you have is just a few dozen years. Why not live as free as you can? Right. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.